I'm here a little bit. Honestly, don't think it's working, and that's just the way it's going to be, unfortunately, for today. Let's see how it goes. Does this? Wait, is it working? Let's see. Okay, maybe it is working. So, all right, we're about to start here. I wanted it to start about 5 minutes from now, and then I'll experiment with the old edit function and cut this part out. But old Josiah's here. That's what matters, because you know the rules. If you're not early, you're late. So I still don't know if this mic is working. Can you guys hear me okay though? Is it working all right? Like, can you guys hear okay? Come on, Josiah, type faster. Faster, Josiah, faster. Oh, there's Mike Papas. No, okay, cool. Yeah, I bought this cheapie off of Amazon, and I figured I would try it so that way I could come outside. I mean, I live in beautiful California, and I'm inside all the time. So I was like, let's try and do it outside. Our buddy Mark was watching the stream yesterday, and oh, don't get excited about the Inquisitor show, by the way. But our buddy Mark was like, dude, your mini blinds in the back were just blinding me. And then my first jerk response was, hey, bud, turn down the brightness on that phone. Look at this white face. I'll blind you if that doesn't. But then I was like, you know what? He's right. That looks like crap. So I'll try and do this outside for a little bit. So I won't start the topic until 1:05 when I said that it would start, because that's fair. I actually got the tweet out to Twitter this time, but not to Facebook too. So, you know, if it wasn't for the site, I would delete my Facebook. That's just a fact. But like seeing the Mike Papas on there. Can't lie. But at the same time, it's just like, what a cesspool. What good comes out of Facebook these days when you get down to it? Not much. I mean, what good really comes out of social media other than getting the news and from weird places? So, but yeah, so everybody's doing good today. Two of the things I want to talk about today, I can never remember how you say her last name. It's Christy Wilson Cairns. And is she still involved in the Taika show? And that's just a bit of like a question. And then I want to talk about the Inquisitor stuff, because it's come up so much this week, and I'm trying not to get it into a nerd fight. You know what I mean? Like that's what people like to do. Like back in the day, it used to really infuriate me when people made up something fake. When something fake was on the internet, I was just like, it's such BS. Why isn't anybody taking it on? Why can't it stand? And then I just kind of learned that when you get down to it, people want fake stuff, and that sucks. Really does suck. But it's just the way that it is. And it's my Josiah's all, speaking of fake, does Zero still make videos? I think so. I think they might have changed some of how the algorithm works, though. You can't game it as much. But it's like the same thing. Like, people know Mike Zero's fake, but they don't care because they like the entertainment of the speculation, but they don't care that the person is giving it to him like as a lie. You know, it's really strange to me. I'll never be able to like come to terms with that mindset. You know, if we were gonna, you know, like if, on this episode, if you guys want to speculate for a while, we can do that. But we're gonna speculate that, you know, the dude from The Big Lebowski is Luke Skywalker in all the thumbnails, because why? Isn't that weird? He was putting like Kurt Russell and Jeff Bridges or somebody weird as Luke for a while, and that started to make me think it was all parody. That's when I started to go, this is probably a big joke, but I don't know, man. Whoa. The Roaming Gamer put a message and then retracted it. Was like, no, I'm taking it back. So anyways, we're about 1 minute from starting. We'll just do a little bit of like hypno. You will believe whatever I say. You will believe. You will believe. So yeah, and you guys have. It's been weird doing anything solo. I asked Mike Pappas if he wanted to come on today, but he's busy right now. He's doing something else. But you guys are my co-hosts, so don't let me flounder too much. Keep me on track. Okay, so here we are now, 25. We'll get started. All right, so most of the times, like shows have like a little like music thing, like boo doo doo doo. So there you go. And then I'm Jason Ward, and this is the Making Star Wars show from MakingStarWars.net, which is the website where I usually post things if I'm not being too lazy and just coming on here instead. And there was a rumor going around this week from the hashtag show that there was an Inquisitor series coming. And it didn't really seem like it rang true to me or accurate, but at the same time, I don't debunk. Like I was saying, kind of like as we were kind of setting up here, I used to have a tag on the site even for debunked, because I'm like, I'm going to debunk this if it's not true. Oh, I found out something that's accurate, debunked. And quickly I realized that was just the most jerky thing you can do, you know, because there are liars. There's definitely liars, but sometimes people just get one wrong. And when someone gets one wrong who had, a pure heart in it, who wanted to make fans happy and bring them information and start a discussion, you don't want to throw eggs at their face. Like some of you probably do, not in this chat, but on the internet. But for the most part, I don't think that's right. So if somebody gets one wrong, you go, okay, they got one wrong. They get a bunch wrong, you start to go, okay, they're not very good at this. I'm not gonna, take them too seriously on what they say on that topic. And then you go, okay, they're just making stuff up. Then you just write them off. Well, and for the record, I'm not saying this, but LRM Online, who I'm not saying is doing this, they're just doing what I don't want to do. And that's punk. And they claim that they've contacted a source at Lucasfilm, and that source just shot that Inquisitor rumor totally down. Just said, that is not happening. My opinion on that, it's like, I don't know who their source is or if they have a source or not. It would be a full-time job trying to keep track of who's accurate and who's not. God, there was this one asshole, I won't say his name, but he was making a spreadsheet when all of this started, when episode 7 was coming. I'm keeping a spreadsheet of everybody who's accurate. And he liked to throw it at me like he was going to throw a dart at me. Like, I'm going to get you, man. I'm going to get you. And then when I was really, really accurate, I never saw that spreadsheet. It never showed up. But so that said, that's just, that spirit feels off to me, So I don't know what the hashtag shows history is and lineage of stuff. So I really can't say, how that washes out. You know what I mean? But LRM is saying no. They're putting the kibosh on it. So let's try not to make a nerd fight here between those two. But one saying that, I have to say I don't think it's coming now. I don't. And when you just like hear something like that, it's one of those things that's like, and I'm not accusing #show of doing this because I don't know, but it's one of those concept out like, oh, I hear the next series is about bounty hunters. Well, you would be right when it's Mandalorian. You'd be right when it's Book of Boba Fett. You'd be right. A Boba Fett type character showed up in the oh, that's what I was hearing about. It was that, you guys. So you just can't really take it too much to heart, you know. You can't really think about those broad concepts when it's a deep concept. Like I'm kind of almost doing a workshop on how to fake it, I think. But if you wanted to fake it, you go in with a concept and then you apply that to the concept. Like everybody's watching Loki. Loki is Mindhunter with the superhero genre, that kind of true crime put together with the superhero genre. Genius idea, smart. That's how you should do. That's how you should make new shows and try new concepts. And that's what they're doing there, and that's exactly what they would do here. So like what is that Lone Wolf and Cub or something like that? You take that and you mix that with Boba Fett, you got the Mandalorian. So an Inquisitor show, just saying we have a concept for an organization and now it's a show. That would be like if every cop show was called this show is called FBI. This is FBI, guys. You know, it has to have more. And so that's why I wasn't really buying into it. And I just think that even at that, it seems like those sites having, following a few of them the way that I have in the last couple of months, I think what they do is I think they just prune casting calls and whatever one that they have, and then they extrapolate from there. So on some of the other stories and some of the other scoops that have come out as of late, like somebody asked about Barriss Ophi. I lost it in the chat, but it wasn't. Oh, Mike Pappas. Is Barriss 100% an Inquisitor, or is that still up in the air? And like, I love the idea. I hope so. Like, I want Barriss to be extrapolated upon and built into live action. She is one of those characters though that's like human enough that once we see her like in the prequels, you're gonna be like, that doesn't look like her. That looks weird. After we see her, in 100 episodes of a couple of different shows or something. But her becoming an Inquisitor, I think, has been on the table for a while. But I don't know if it's entirely been organic or not, because I had heard that she was going to be in that video game, Fallen Order. I think I talked about this yesterday, maybe on the last stream, but that she was going to be in Fallen Order as that Inquisitor, as the apprentice. And I think the kibosh went on that. And then now she's, maybe she's going to be in one of these other shows. The Ahsoka show makes the most sense. And it makes sense to apply concepts to the Ahsoka series and things like that. I don't know what the time span of the Ahsoka series is, so maybe that doesn't make sense. But you know what I'm saying. Anything where you have a Jedi on the run, the Kenobi show, they're looking for him, right? If they know he's alive, they're going to be looking for him. If he ignites that lightsaber, turns it on, starts killing some people, somebody calls the space cops. Space cops are going to call the Inquisitors, right? I mean, that's how it's going to work. So, yeah, I mean, I would like a show where you had people who were hunting down Jedi. Like, that sounds fun. It definitely does. But it also, it needs more. You need. I think the concept is very, very bare bones. Theories for tomorrow's episode of the Bad Batch. Wow, actually, I'm trying to blank on it. I feel like I watched Bad Batch so long ago. How did the last episode end? Oh, they were getting the chips out of their heads, right? Or they were getting kind of like their Order 66 deprogramming kind of tuned out or whatever. So, yeah, I'm enjoying it. Like it's kind of been nice in a way. Like I I care enough to tune in, but I don't get into each episode like mad that what I was hoping was going to happen or what could have happened, happened. Like last week when Rex showed up, I thought that was Bill Organa the week before when you saw like that kind of like poncho kind of like cloak going over the shoulder. Reminded me of like what Bill Organa wears. I thought it was Bill. I thought for sure. No, I shouldn't say for sure, but I thought probably. I thought it was like Bill Organa. And then it was Rex. And I gotta say, like, it was cool. I was happy to see Rex. I mean, it was telephoned in, like they were talking about him. You knew it was gonna happen. It was in little preview snippets that we had seen. So it wasn't like a surprise. But I didn't think it was gonna be him then. But when he did show up, it was sort of like like Rex has come back so many times now in so many different ways that like Rex just turning up, maybe outside of live action, probably doesn't really mean too much other than, oh, cool, it's Rex. But it's not like, oh, damn, it's Rex. At least for me. If it is for you, great. If they could keep playing that chord for you and striking it, then rad. But do you have any theories? Thoughts on Kessel Run transmission? Good dudes. Ben Bamboo. I want the Inquisitor show to be true. It makes too much sense and it's too slick a concept to pass up. Yeah. I mean, I think implementation into all of these shows and running through and maybe even building characters through that can then be dug into, that might be the smartest way to go about it. But it's it would have to almost start at about Order 66 times and then kind of explain how it comes to be and then move from there. And they've introduced so many characters that, but I don't know if they would work on screen. And yeah, man, it's they could make anything work though. They just have to make up some new rule. Oh, that was the seventh sister of Red Squadron, whatever. What will the book of Boba Fett be about? The Roman Gamer asks. That's the good question. I mean, Book of Boba Fett is strangely locked down. I was down and they had a guy watching me, so I couldn't take pictures. And when they were filming it one day, and one of the cool things that I saw, I might have mentioned it. So if I have, sorry, I can't remember what I've mentioned, what I haven't lately, because I've just been busy with stuff. So it's like, but they had this building. It looked like it was like a big, like almost like a bar or a store. And it was like definitely one of the main sets. It's definitely going to be like the main set in one of the episodes. The top of it though had like, in Rogue One when they're going through Jeddah and you can see like the writing on the walls and it's like that blue kind of writing that's sort of like in Arabesh, but it's not. It's like a Ralph McQuarrie design. The top of the building was like that, so it was like a written sign, but it wasn't in Arabesh, so you couldn't like translate it. There was nothing to translate. It's just a design. But you could see that kind of print on the walls in Rogue One when you watch it. I noticed it when I saw it when I watched Rogue One a few days ago. And I liked it a lot. I almost started to wonder if that was Jeddah based on that, but I'm pretty sure it's Tatooine. And I could be wrong, but I just don't think you want to mix Jeddah and Tatooine in the same go. It's going to be really confusing. So Rex helped them out. They fixed Wreckers. Yeah. And I was sort of hoping that Wrecker was gonna go evil for a short time. Like I think that would have kind of been fun. And what they I mean when I say that I mean like an episode or two, not like moments. And but Wrecker man, I'm so mixed on that character. Like I'll see one episode with Wrecker and the jokes connect, and then the next one it just doesn't. it's like it feels like at times they write in record gag here, like he does this, but make it better, and then they never get around to it. That's what he feels like to me. And so I like the concept of Wrecker, and I'm very mixed on him at times. I think that he has that 1 foot in the superhero genre, and they kind of want to play with that, but they could push it. And sometimes they on top of that doesn't really connect. So Raxus might be in the next episode. I think Fennec will show up. They found out she's been hired by the Kaminoans, and she joins them to get Omega back to Kamino eventually. Yeah, that tracks. I would buy that. I heard a rumor that Mace Windu could be in Boba Fett. That would be cool. Wouldn't that would be pretty rad. We were talking yesterday, like, wouldn't it be cool if they did something with Mace? And I said I would be okay with Mace being alive if he was just severely damaged, like the Star Killer concept of Kane Star Killer in George Lucas's early drafts, where he's like, I'm dying, and he rips up and his like fluids coming out and stuff. But it doesn't have to be that grotesque. But yeah, something like that would be kind of cool. And I'm kind of curious to see if they ever delve into like what Boba thought of Order 66. You know, if you read Star Wars Insider back before Revenge of the Sith, there used to be this opening kind of little column by Rick McCallum, a column by McCallum, and he would kind of drop his episode 3 news in there and tell you how effing awesome it was going to be, and other bad words, and how it was as good as Empire Strikes Back. He just always said that stuff, you know. He's a hype man. Like George Lucas did the rap and he did the hype. And he said that Daniel Logan was going to be back as Boba Fett in it, and then that didn't happen. And you can see why that happened, because they decided to have Mace Windu, you know, be the sort of Jedi sacrificial lamb for Anakin's turn. And which, you know, when I think back on that, like I like all of those scenes, but it's really kind of weird. Like, you would have thought Lucas would have made a more endearing character to Anakin for him to like turn on, because man, it would be pretty easy for Anakin to. I mean, Mace Windu just like doesn't want him to be a part of anything at any point. He's kind of like his adversary in every way about everything in that story. So, oh, I have to kill this guy, and I get to hang out with Natalie Portman longer, like all the time. You mean? All right, so it kind of makes sense. But it makes the turn easier, I guess. But anyways, yeah. I mean, I wonder how Boba Fett took that concept that this person he wanted revenge on, that he was living for revenge, it never got to see its fruition, and is that why he becomes the bad person he became? Because we still don't know if Boba is Boba just going to be, you know, the anti-hero? Is he going to become a hero? Because he kind of felt like he had his butt kicked by life a little bit in The Mandalorian, and he seemed like he wasn't, you know, completely evil. I mean, even he had a code. And so, yeah, I'm kind of curious as to how he's come to terms with all of that, you know? So Ben Bo, wait, okay, Mike Pappas. They already de-aged Hamill. I'll let me know if in Harrison's contract for Indy 5, he's got to do mocap and voiceover for Boba. That Young Indiana Jones thing, pretty sure that Indy's going to be World War II, and then 19. We saw a picture of him yesterday in his like travel clothes, going around like in like a sport coat almost, like pretty leisurely. It looked very 60s though. I would say it was the 60s. And Mangold, the director of Indy, said at one point he's working on a couple of films set in the 60s in New York, and so I would expect that the film will go to New York as well based off of that, because he was talking about how the Velvet Underground makes him think of all of that stuff. Wouldn't it be crazy to hear the Velvet Underground in Indiana Jones? Like, I'm all for it. But yeah. So what do you think the deal is with Omega? Old Stickles ass? Well, I kind of would not be surprised if it turns out that she can use the Force. That's just speculation, obviously. That she's a clone who's unaltered in such a way that she can maybe do that stuff. Like I've speculated that before, because, and if that's all based off of appearances though, because her design and her look is totally based off of the female Luke Skywalker, Ralph McQuarrie, once again, concept art. You know, is there anything left from Ralph McQuarrie? I mean, if you want to make up a fake rumor, just go and find what they haven't drawn from with Ralph McQuarrie. Like, well, yeah, it's this guy, because it'll probably be true. That one, they've mined it so hard. So a Jedi hunting show is a can't miss. The violence and ruthlessness would appeal to older fans especially. Also, having a sister who is a reluctant assassin may be having second thoughts is intriguing. Sure. Yeah. I mean, I would have to think that most of the people who are Inquisitors were probably gifted in some way, but also, couldn't take the torture or whatever, and defected to the dark side. And I mean, Barriss is actually the one who makes the most sense, because she did that all on her own. When you get down to it, I mean, she decided that she rejected the Jedi Order, and she rejected the politics of the day. So she seems pretty, ripe for becoming a little Sith. So okay, let me see. Do you think we see Vader unmasked in Obi-Wan? I do. Without getting, I wouldn't run this on the site as like a rumor, but I have a friend who consults on some things, and and is like kind of an expert and knows a lot of people involved with certain pieces of armor for certain characters, and they wouldn't tell me, but they told me that I was going to be happy, and I just felt like that was them telling me. So I expect it, but I think like either way we win, and if we get both, we actually really win. I feel like I want to see Darth Vader again, but also like I don't care that much if I do, like in the suit. I mean, I don't care that much, because like that Rogue One Darth Vader moment, like that rocks. I mean, it probably isn't going to get better than that. So you're going to have to go like the dramatic route. And if you guys have an Oculus Quest or PC VR at all, you have probably played Vader Immortal, and there we kind of get Padme, my name is Darth Vader, I'm sad, kind of stuff, and it's done well. But it's you get that stuff there, and so Darth Vader in the suit between Rogue One and the VR stuff, like, and the comic books that I'm not even caught up on at all, but I'm good, with suited Darth Vader content. But I'd love to see it still. But I want to see Hayden Christensen with no eyebrows, See how many dates you get now, dude. Pretty boy. No, it would just be fun though. It would be fun to see that. And then if we get a Clone Wars flashback, like who doesn't want to see more of the Clone Wars and maybe in a way with more depth or more heart than we got in the prequels? Because we get moments with the characters, but we didn't get a lot of like battlefield stuff. There wasn't a lot of that. There was just kind of like, here's the first war and the end war and the drama, So, okay, so what do we got here? In Kenobi, will Kenobi-Wan and Vader have a rematch, or is Obi-Wan just gonna fight an Inquisitor? Yeah, I mean that's the question, right? And that's what think that there's just so many ways that they can handle this. I mean, because they can do it with dreams. I mean, Obi-Wan could have nightmares and visions, and that's got to be like, if there was one symbol that haunts Obi-Wan Kenobi, it's got to be that Darth Vader, right? And I can't recall, have we seen in canon when Kenobi realizes who Darth Vader is, or that the guy in the suit is Anakin? Like, have we ever seen him deal with that or contend with that? Because like, he knows he's out there, he knows that he's alive, but does he, he doesn't know he's in the suit. I can't recall if we ever heard that, and if we did, maybe I didn't read it. So, but that could be something interesting to have pop up in that story too. There should be no meeting between Obi-Wan and Vader until episode 4. Remember, the last time they met wasn't I am the master. 10 years, last time I was still but the learner, and maybe at that point he still considered himself the learner. I know what you mean, though. It is a little bit cheap, and it's one of those things where if they do that, it has to really be worth it. It has to connect. I'm kind of like looking at what we've seen from Deborah Chow. She doesn't play around. She's pretty hardcore. Between Mr. Robot and the stuff we've seen in Mando, I think she's going to. I think it would be worth it if she did it. I think it could be done well. At the same, because I mean, I would rather see that than them improve the A New Hope fight, right? But at the same time, they could internally with us fans make it make sense. Like, how when Kenobi and Maul meet, Kenobi kills him in like a couple of, one or two, couple of chess moves. When they fight, it's really slow, and they do that so they could maybe justify it by that. But maybe we could get that Rogue One Darth Vader fighting Episode 3 Kenobi. I wouldn't be mad if I saw that. It's like, but it would have to. The setup has to just be phenomenal. But the show took a long time to get going, and it wasn't like they weren't just rushing out the door to make it happen immediately. So I'm thinking that they got it right. When it was a film, person I know at Lucasfilm told me the Kenobi film script was the best script they ever had. So that was, when I say mutilated, I don't mean it in a bad way, but that was cut up into at 1.6 scripts and then revised. Something lost there? I don't know, but I have to think that with hearing that, it makes me think that there's going to be a lot of goodness. So I have the highest hopes for Kenobi based off of that. I think it's going to be it should be the best of what they've done. And the person who told me this is very brutally critical of Star Wars and usually right. So perhaps he fights holographic cloaked droids. Yeah, there's a lot of ways they could have Vader fighting, but it's like, what is Kenobi doing in that story that it needs to exist? That's the thing that I constantly go back to. And then making it a limited series means a season 2 is not guaranteed. Unlike, like Cassian's going to have a season 2, but season 1 is the only season of Kenobi I think that we're guaranteed right now. So what that says to me is that there's every indication that it's meant to connect. It's meant to work by itself as the only thing they ever do with Kenobi. So with that in mind, what is important enough? If it's like, oh no, this person over here is having their villages raided. What are we going to do? Uh-oh, I'm Jedi Obi-Wan Kenobi. Here I come. I must save the day and put this lightsaber back onto my belt. It's like, you know what? That story doesn't need to be a Kenobi story. The Mandalorian's already done that in an episode. It's happened in the Seven Samurai episode of Clone Wars. That doesn't need to be a complete series of Obi-Wan Kenobi. It just no. It needs more than that. So what is more than that? And he has training on Tatooine, and it's life after death retention. He's I'm under the impression that he's not only on Tatooine, but I haven't seen any empirical evidence other than like one time when I saw Kenobi in his outfit, and he might have had a walking stick of some kind with him, I think. But he might have been in a dark cave. It was a photo of a photo situation. Looked cool though. Hair was pretty stringy from being sweaty. And but so it's like but what's this quest? And you know, he's a knight. If you look at what everybody is, you know, what is the archetype? He's an Arthurian knight, and I'm no expert in Arthurian legend, but it's got to be something like one of those kind of things. And from what I understand of those legends, it's either romance and love, or it's like holy. I don't. So unless you know, Kenobi got a Tinder match and goes out of his hovel, I think it's going to probably be something to do with the Force. And what's he doing? He's trying to live forever, trying to achieve immortality, and to become that ghost that we see in A New Hope. And in a weird way, if they go that route and it's handled properly, it'll do for A New Hope what Rogue One did, where it almost just like runs right up into it. But this one will run right up into it thematically, with Kenobi being able to say, yeah, dude, I'm going to let them get off the Death Star, and I'm going to become more powerful than you can imagine, and you're messing up. And you could also take that moment as Kenobi trying to show Anakin, like, love and compassion, the Jedi way. That's the way to get what you originally wanted. Even though that's kind of where you started at, but you went down the wrong road to try to achieve it. So you know, you could take it what he did as a sacrifice for Luke and for Anakin, and if that's handled properly, it would just enhance A New Hope even further. And that's not a bad thing. Not that A New Hope needs it, but when those things work that way, it's usually for the best. Is Han going to be in Boba Fett? You know, I don't think so. I hope so. I mean, that would be cool. Because I mean, I still think he probably hates Mace Windu a lot more than Han Solo. But that's probably number 2. And you know, how does he deal with that? But yeah, that would be cool. I mean, it would be really cool, but I haven't had any indication of that. If that happened, it would be a big surprise to me. And like, usually when people get excited about something, that's when I know that I knew he was in episode 9 really early on, because people were so excited that he was coming back. I haven't heard anything about that though. That would be rad though, wouldn't it? I mean, it would be really cool. I know. What do you guys think? Should they recast Han, Luke, and Leia to give us stories with them in it when it's appropriate? You know, I mean, everybody likes Sebastian Stan. We talk about him. I love Carrie Fisher. It's Carrie Fisher, but Princess Leia, Carrie Fisher was rad. The acting performance of Leia, I don't think is super hard for an actor to jump into. So somebody who has the right chops and that look could be Leia very easily. I think Han Solo is the hard one, you know. And would they bring back name from Hail Caesar to be Han Solo in that era? But I'd be all for it. I think they should. I don't know. What do you guys think though? Dale, you here? So, anyways, Rogue One doesn't make much sense with A New Hope. The core with sabotage makes no sense. Who sabotaged Death Star 2's core? Who sabotaged the droid control ship's core? So, well, I mean, in A New Hope, it makes sense that Galen Erso put this vulnerability, and whenever anybody questioned it, he was like, "Hey, shut up, jerk! It's nothing. Look how small it is." And then they were like, "Oh, you're right, boss." And then the people who weren't scientists overlooked it, and then he was able to give that weakness over to a Jinn, and they analyzed, but they didn't believe him. They got the plans, and with the plans, were able to analyze it and find the there, and then exploit it. I think sense. Now, episode 6 Death Star, which is really a weak story idea when you get down to it. I think that was just George Lucas wanting to make the concepts in A New Hope that he came up with better and see them fully, executed with what he had hoped. It was the special edition before the special edition, and in that one, I don't think the Emperor cared. I think he was laying his cards on the line. I think he was making a big bet, and he was arrogant enough to think that it was going to pay off. But also, I mean, now that we have to take episode 9 into consideration, he also knew that if he lost the bet, he was just going to come back to life on Exegol and then do what he was doing anyway. And he had to look at that old Palpatine body and had to been like, this shit ain't holding too well anyway. I mean, look at me. Look like Jason Ward jumped in the pool for too long. And so he probably, at that point, was just like taking a risk. Because, I mean, the Death Star wasn't done either. I have to think if it had been finished, you wouldn't have been able to have flown into it. And then the episode 1 scene, divine interventions, how that's explained. Anakin was just pulled to it by the Force, the same way he could race pods and all that other jazz. So, do you think Disney will ever make special editions of the sequel trilogy, like add scenes or make shows to shape up the story? I don't. I don't even know. I don't even know if I would really support that necessarily, because they were corporately made films with those filmmakers, working as a team. Not like George Lucas. I think it's different. I don't know if I respect that. What's the auteur theory? A film's never done and you get to work on it forever when it's your film. But I don't think it's their film. I think they made that for a large multinational corporation, and it was made to order, and they were given the creative, spin that they were allowed. But I think that's kind of where it starts and stops. I mean, I'm a bit contradictory though, in the sense that, like, on the other hand, I feel bad that they took Rogue One away from Gareth Edwards. I don't know how cool he was with that. But on one hand, I think if you give somebody a film to direct, you should let them do it, especially if they've directed it. Second guessing it after is kind of like, I like Rogue One, so it's hard to argue with the results, But if Rogue One had been an awful mess, then it would have been like, well, what a disaster. So Dale's famous. Nobody had to sabotage Death Star 2 score. They flew right into it. Yeah, that's also true. I mean, it was just open. It was, and they got and they also got the shield generator down. So it wasn't like it was open, but it was also protected, and they took it down. So A New Hope had all the information necessary to destroy the Death Star. What they needed was to steal the plans. Yeah, in Rogue One, that's what they're like stealing. That's what they're hiding throughout the whole film. It's the MacGuffin of the movie. So why spend time building a full real one when it's just a tool in his trap? I mean, obviously we're overthinking this a little bit here, but because it is just a movie. But why build it even bigger? Why not just build 2 and just it be Leah Laser? I mean, that makes the most sense. but at the same time, this is a maniacal sociopathic narcissist. He had to make it even bigger because they blew up the smaller one, and he needed that symbol, you know. But the point is that a blast to a reactor destroys it. There's no sabotage. Okay. The leaked plans were part of the trap in 6. Also true. It was bait. You know, he was taking him out there as bait, and he had hoped that he was going to turn Luke, and then whatever happened to that Death Star, Luke's worth 1,000 Death Stars. He blew up the other one. He's worth more than a Death Star in terms of potential. So, and also, you know, in George Lucas's script for Return of the Jedi at one point, he had it where Luke goes, "Yeah, I'll join you. Okay, I can have this Death Star, and that's your Death Star. Okay." And then he just gets in his Death Star and turns it towards Palpatine and blows it up. It's like, I did it. It's supposed to look more imposing to make them feel like they were gonna take out a greater weapon. So, sure. I mean, it's like whatever makes it work for you. That's the way I take it. So on like a little side note here that I wanted to get to. Christy Wilson Cairns was, I think, did you say Cairns or Carnes? I'm not sure. But is she still involved in the Taika Star Wars movie? I was reading some articles by Christopher Mark over at the Ronin, and that guy asks the good questions. He really does. He doesn't seem to like lean into things. Seems to be a fan who wants things to happen, but doesn't side with what he wants to happen. He's objective enough. So I always enjoy reading his stuff. And in one of his articles, he just kind of brings it up. And it was, there was that Star Wars Taika announcement that he was making a Star Wars movie. And then we go sometime later, and they have this other blurb, and it's like a brand new Star Wars feature with acclaimed filmmaker and Academy Award Taika Waititi's in development. And then they kind of just like build him up as sort of the only one involved in it. And we haven't heard anything, and I don't think that we would. But I started to wonder if Christy Wilson Cairns was still on the Taika one, or if he was the sole writer based off of the stuff I read over there. Because I'm really interested in that movie, because I think that is the first one we're going to have that might break the mold a little bit. Both Rogue One and Solo were supposed to deviate from that mold, and they didn't. They were both, in the end, shaped back into being straight up Star Wars movie. And Taika's style and is so much more comedic, but the action is still so solid. I mean, his Marvel movie is probably my favorite. Might be Winter Soldier, but might be Ragnarok. It kind of just depends on what mood I'm in. But and his work on Mandalorian was solid. But I think he's going to bring that weirdness with comedy, but that weirdness into it that I like about Star Wars, because there's a lot of stuff like when you watch the original trilogy and like you see what they're showing you, like how silly that Lucas is being at times. But then we start taking it so seriously that we don't see how silly it is. We just see it as alien and foreign. It's really strange. But I mean, she's an Academy Award winner. I mean, she's written some serious films as well. And so I really hope that is still happening, because that those two are happening as a team, because I think that's going to be a really cool alchemy of that really solid, stern, really heavy writing with this Taika's directing and comedic slant. I think it's going to be hilarious. Taika's going to be like the classic 70s comics. Yeah, that would be cool. I would be up for that, because I can see that. That's what there were at times there were rumors that the original version of Solo had more of like the blaxploitation film aspect to it, and that style was completely removed when Howard came aboard. I don't know if how accurate that is, or if it was just a few things. I mean, You could definitely see some of it though. You could definitely see some of that, like in some of the hairstyles and things like that. And I think it was going to go that more into that direction. But maybe one day they'll really open up about it and talk about it, because I would love to hear those guys speak about the experience. Or having it unfinished. Okay, so yeah, did I miss anything in the chat? That was a big question, but I know Kathleen Kennedy said there would be a rematch with Vader and Obi-Wan, but do you think it's not what we expect? See, I'm out of the loop on that one. Did she say that? Maybe she said that when they were announcing the cast. Yeah, I mean it's would you make an Obi-Wan movie with Darth Vader in it and they don't fight? Would that make anybody, would that make anybody happy? But like a Black Sunday, something cool. Yeah, that's what it sounded like the direction they were going in. At the same time, maybe it's a bad idea to, if that was true, to have two white dudes doing it. You know what I mean? Maybe that wasn't the right film for them. I don't know. But well, they didn't need plans to find the way to the core because the superstructure was open. Yeah, right. So there you go. Yeah. So I mean, anybody else have other things that we should hit today? They figured they found it on finish and had an easy target. Turns out they did, but Palp still got Luke on it before it blew up. I want to see the story of what was so important that Obi-Wan had to leave Tatooine once. Yeah, and that's if you. I don't know how heavily they would go into something from the Clone Wars for financial reasons and exposition reasons, but look at what Yoda had to do to learn that life after death retention. Look at where he had to go and the places that, who knows what Kenobi's going to need. And his physical power gets weaker. His ability to fight is he's not trained up in that anymore. And you see it brought up by Darth Vader. But his spiritual side is way more intense. He's able to become a blue ghost. So do you just get that meditating on some dirt in the sand for 20 years? Maybe, but maybe there's more to it. Maybe there's missing knowledge. I mean, I also think if you're really going at it in this thing, he might go to Yoda, or maybe Yoda comes to him. But I think Yoda's going to be it. That's just what my sense tells me. But any idea what Phoebe's role is in Indy 5 or any speculation? Geez, that's a really good question, because I have to think she's in the 1960s part of the film. So she's probably going to be maybe a New Yorker, and maybe, I don't know. Do you think they would have him have a daughter? Do you think they would move it there? There were rumors that Lucas wanted Natalie Portman to be Indiana Jones's daughter in Indy 4, and Spielberg wanted the son. And then that's when it was changed over to being Mutt Williams, or that's when the story took that direction. I don't know if I've ever seen a script that verifies that in any way, though. And the Frank Darabont draft that leaked didn't have anything like that whatsoever. God, that Frank Darabont script was really good. It just really didn't feel like it was like a movie for old Indy. And it would have almost been cool if they had used the DH stuff and were able to make that movie at one point. But anyways, how often do you think we'll see Hayden's face behind the mask and flashbacks to the Clone Wars? A revisit to the Jedi Temple massacre from Order 66? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I would have to think that whatever we see, it's got to be from Obi-Wan Kenobi's gaze, not from the vantage point of just some characters or just some Jedi. So, I can't remember. Does he watch when he watches the footage and he turns it off? Does he like watch it? Does he like see? Does he see it happen and then turn it off, or does it get there and he just gets it and turns it off? But I mean, if he saw more of that, I mean, they could probably extrapolate on that a bit if they wanted to. I like Indy 4. It's like 1950s sci-fi film. A fun spin on Indy. Yeah, I totally agree. I like the first hour of it especially. The first hour of it is just really solid, all the way to when they start to look for Oxley, when they start to find the first crystal skull. All the way up to that point in the film, I just absolutely love it. And then I always hate to say it, but it's when Karen Allen shows up that it starts to get just really lazy and easy. And I love her, but she didn't do that good of a job. And she's, doing this with the steering wheel when she's driving the thing like it's a joke. And like, but it's like when I just look past that stuff, I like everything in it. Indiana Jones is still good. And just to be clear, Indiana Jones 4 is still better than any of the knockoffs that have ever come out. It's worlds above anything from The Mummy to Romancing the Stone and all of that jazz. Like, those things do not even come into the realm of that. So when I'm hard on it, I'm saying like, oh, like here's like 3 of the best movies I think were ever made in the history of the world. And this run right here is right up there with it. It's just maybe on par with one of the other ones, not the other 2, like that's just how I see it. But I still love it. Same thing with like Star Wars. Same thing with Episode 9. Like Episode 9 is my crystal skull of Star Wars films. Same thing. All of that applies. Do you think the plan is to continue the Indy series after 5, whether with Phoebe or a younger version of Indy? I believe firmly that this is the intention, is that this is the last Indiana Jones film because they're making Indiana Jones with Harrison Ford. And so this is the last film there. Do I believe that Disney will be like, well, we have Indiana Jones and I mean, hopefully he lives to be 120, right? But most people die around his age, and he's still out there making films and doing well. But at one point he's going to die, and at one point we won't have seen an Indiana Jones movie forever, and at one point they're all going to look dated into such a degree that it's not going to be a bad thing for them to try again. Unlike the Star Wars films, where it's not set in reality and you could just continue it, those ones are set on Earth, and they will look old, but they'll be timeless. I'm not saying that they won't be, but I just saying that it will be a very concept just to make more and start more. Now I think that when that time comes, it becomes, do they continue the Harrison Ford story? Do they make films that could be put in between them, or do they just start fresh and even remake them, or just make new adventures with him and then start remaking them, like how they did James Bond, how I think they redid Casino Royale, for instance, stuff like that. Because I think the concept would have worked without Harrison Ford. It's just so much better with Harrison Ford. That's the big difference. And I hope this isn't the last one. I hope that's BS too. I mean, I'd be happy with them de-aging him and making a whole movie set after Last Crusade. I'm cool with that. I have no problems with that, because the Indiana Jones format is so fun and so fresh that as long as people are writing good gags, they got the pace and a good mystery, that stuff doesn't really get old. Like James Bond doesn't really get old. You know, I'm not the world's biggest James Bond fan, so I don't want to like overstep in that line of thinking. But I could tell that James Bond fans, they're always looking forward to more. And there's way more James Bond movies than there are Indiana Jones movies. And in my opinion, the Indiana Jones concept is bigger and stronger than James Bond because it can go into the spiritual and into aliens, and it can also just be a war movie and a spy movie. And I loved the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles. I'm not sure if I would recommend it if you've never seen it, unless you're a huge indie fan. I'm not sure if I would say you should watch it because it's ABC TV in the early 90s, recut into films that makes you feel like it should be better constantly because there is such a high quality to it, but it is what it is. You know, it came out of where it came out of, and but I loved it for what it was. But I'm also, you know, crazy about Indiana Jones. So, do you think the plan is to continue? Okay, yeah, they need to make indie Clone Wars style show. Yeah, I mean that's also true. Indiana Jones having adventures in an animated style I'm surprised it's never happened. The only thing I could think of is that it, you know, when they have Indy can't probably go after religious materials. That might, I don't know how difficult it would be for a cartoon coming in at Y7 to Y14 to deal with that. Maybe that is the issue, but I would love to see that. I mean, and it would be a little serial great. And that whole opening of Clone Wars, war, all that stuff fits the Indiana Jones style more than it does Star Wars. I mean, overtly anyway. It seems like they are clear Indy is to continue the universe. Yeah, I mean, I think that was the idea with Mutt. I think they wanted to do that with Mutt Williams, and then I think he became the center of controversy for a couple of choices that he had nothing to do with in the film, like the monkey swinging, and then he kind of got most of the heat for it, and then he also kind of went down in art avenue, and I kind of like that guy, honestly. I kind of think he's interesting. I think he's a kind of a fascinating dude, and in a way, I'm kind of bummed. But on the other hand, I don't really follow it enough to know, you know, he deserves the heat that he's got, or you know, whatever. But he seems like he's interesting, at least. And I take an interesting person over a boring person. He looks so cool in animation. Yeah. I've seen some of those concepts that people have done. Adventure films in the 80s or 90s would be cool with a new lead. Yeah, I mean, I always said we tried to do an Indiana Jones podcast for a while. Mike Pappas was involved with that, and but the film kept stalling out, and it was just like not really enough to really like keep itself going with all the Star Wars stuff going on. So it didn't really go anywhere. And but anyways, I said on there that two of the things I always wanted to see more of was I always wanted to see Indiana Jones in the white tuxedo being more like James Bond in Civilization, because he doesn't always have to be like in the jungle. Like we associate the jungle with Indy, but it doesn't have to be that way. You know, Last Crusade isn't really a jungle movie, and that's my favorite one. And that opening of Temple of Doom is just fantastic. And but I would have, if they had said, Jason, you get to make your Mutt Williams movie, he gets that camera, not the hat. Photography have been his, and then that way you could essentially have that Peter Parker, I need the photo thing, but also the adventure that Indy goes on. And I think that would have been, I think that's maybe what they were going for, but that's what I would have done, and taken Mutt Williams in that direction. It's going to be weird if he just never brought up again, but at the same time, whatever happened to Willie in Short Round, right? I mean, they were before Raiders, and they never got any love. So, do you think the problem with the Star Wars sequels was they tried to correct prequels? Now it seems like TV is trying to fix sequels. Do you think Disney made a mistake by trying to fix perceived mistakes? That's a good question, because they definitely, I don't think so. I don't think any of the problems, any of the structural issues that you see in the sequel trilogy, you could attribute to prequel, to rejecting what the prequels did. Well, look, I'm getting some J.J. Abrams wrote rainbow there for a second. I don't think you can. I do think that they're a dynamic company in the sense that they do hear what people say. They don't blindly want to make mistakes or the same mistake over and over again. So if everyone was saying, for instance, the acting is too good, the acting is just too good, then they would probably say, let's not prioritize acting as much. If nobody would ever say that, but that's just my kind of catch-all there. And I think that there were mistakes made, in the sense that, like, I feel like the mistakes mostly are with J.J. Abrams and his vibe of how the internet understood things. Conjecture on my part. If you ever wants to come on the show and hang out, he's totally invited. You're cool, JJ. You can come on. We can talk. But it seemed to me like knew what people wanted to hear. Western and space and all of that stuff like that, and he said that stuff like, oh, that's totally what I'm doing, you guys. And then, like, you look at it, and then look at Mandalorian. That's a Western in space. Those weren't a Western in space. They had the frontier, sure, but I don't really think I just think that a lot of the stuff felt a little bit reactionary, and it was just I don't think it was brave to not pick up Rose and to have done more with her. And I think it was a huge mistake to introduce Jannah, and then it's just like, why did you introduce Jannah? Like, you didn't do anything with her, and you didn't have it all like culminate in something with Finn that was stronger. Like, the concept is there, the riding on the horses and all the stormtroopers is there, but the power isn't. So it's like the movie, like I said, but I'm most critical of it. You can't fix Palp's return. That's done. That's true. I mean, if, like a Death Star after Return of the Jedi, if you ever see that again, you're just gonna roll your eyes and just be like, no, no, you can't do that. You already did it again. No. And that's what's Palpatine coming back. It's like, yeah, of course he would. It's kind of, in a way, sucky that they had to they hadn't done that many Star Wars movies where he was dead, and they had made two. No, you guys could have done something else with that. There could have been a better way. And even that concept of the idea with the Sith, of Palpatine having all of them in him, like of all of their knowledge and all of their evil spirit kind of like combines, if you will. That being in Kylo was it enough, and the acknowledgement of that on screen could have really have been powerful. But they wanted that feature, It's a feature when Palpatine comes back. It's like it's a selling point. It's something to make everybody go, oh, I gotta see it. And they didn't have a better one, I think. It's just unfortunate. Sometimes I'm really down on it, though. Sometimes I'm really all about it. Sometimes I'm really down on it. Bringing back Maul was a better idea, right? I actually do think so. I mean, like, Maul makes me mad in the same way, though, that it plays the ambiguity game. Like, they don't show how it happens. I think a comic book showed him falling onto like a trash heap or whatever. But like, you see Maul get cut in half, and then the next time you see him, he's this like decrepit spider, and like that's just like, what? Like, did anybody really, think they were going to see Maul as a spider? like the way that they took it was like through a demonic hell, and then brought him back with the story, and I was cool with that. I was cool with that idea. I mean, but yeah, I mean, even there were fake rumors and stuff that Rey was the reincarnated Palpatine and stuff like that. There were other ways of doing this, but the fact of the matter is that they didn't commit to it early enough. And the other thing is that I do think Abrams had the idea, because there were journalists I knew who worked with them, with Lucasfilm and Bad Robots on stuff, and they were kind of like tipped off and given wink winks and suggestions, and they had both heard Kenobi and Palpatine were like possibilities. And that was before The Force Awakens had even come out. That was when I was like running stories about is she a Solo still. And yeah, it was a mistake to not have had a firmer agenda, and that then the people who came on agreed to the agenda and who could have enhanced it. Instead, it seemed like it was a little bit like, well, and to an extent, I mean, making it up as you go is how the original trilogy went. It worked there. Prequels weren't entirely as made up as you go. There was more structure there, and then less successful with the fans. And then, you got the sequel trilogy. I really do think that the sequel trilogy, though, is good. Just to be like super clear, it is still, all of them are still like well made. It's just it's infuriating when something gets close to being a masterpiece and then maybe has a few things that keep it from it. Maul is dead by the OT. Done. Yeah, that's true. He dies. I liked all that stuff about Maul finding out about Luke and him being like, "Oh, that's my Anakin. I'm gonna go get that dude, and we're gonna tear some stuff up." Like that's all really fun stuff. But Lopez says, "Yeah, I made my piece of it. I enjoy some parts of the sequels, but they don't connect to anything that came before for me. It's just how I feel. I don't hate them, but I don't love them." Yeah, and that's that's fair. I like your attitude. If it didn't work for you, then you just go, okay, it didn't work for me, and you just kind of move on with it. Enjoy what you enjoy and focus on what you like. And I think keeping that attitude might make you receptive to accepting them for what they are entirely, and then even at one point finding a new appreciation for them. I think that happened with the prequels. I think when Star Wars was in limited supply, you only had 6, and 3 of them weren't what you specifically wanted or what someone specifically wanted. It was a lot easier to get really just like down on it, just really mad about it. And once it started making more, people were able to evaluate those 3 films on their own merits, strengths and weaknesses, So far better, because there is less explanation and backstory needed, of which they had to listen anyway. Yeah, they that idea of characters coming back if you didn't see them die on screen is probably, in the Star Wars universe, worth taking very seriously. They didn't die on screen, with the exception of a Death Star like Tarkin blowing them to pieces. Then I think it's pretty much, they're pretty much dead, if you see them die. And Maul fell down the hole, which gave them the opportunity. I do oftentimes, like when it comes to like Count Dooku and stuff like that, like I always find that came about so kind of weird. Like they were gonna make like a lady Sith type, and then it became Dracula, and he almost had it. It's funny when you think about it, because he's Dracula. He was the Dracula of the Francis Ford Coppola Dracula, Lucas's buddy, and it's probably, outside of the original, the most definitive Dracula movie that has ever been made, I would say. I mean, I like the Hammer horror ones with Christopher Lee a lot as well, but at the same time, that one was like the most probably pop culture big, and so you can see where Lucas's mind was at with Count Dooku. But by the same measure, when you get to those movies, do you guys ever feel like Count Dooku was in any way a Dracula type? I don't really feel like they really took much from it. But yeah, parts are fun, but the overall story is what I don't buy. What was the point of the first 6 following Anakin all those years just not to be the one that destroys the Sith? So okay, so like on that kind of idea, I think though with these films where if the film is ever about a handoff, then it's like there you have it. I mean, Anakin was never going to defeat evil for all time. But what Anakin did and what all of the heroes did culminated in Rey is the idea, and that it wasn't for nothing. It all led to that moment. And the idea is, I think, an important one today. Not to get on some probably makes one of those people who's mad about the culture war mad saying this, but it's one of those things where we can't change the world by ourselves necessarily, but the good things that we do might lead to Rey. That was my takeaway from it. When we do something really good, or we help somebody, we might be, not making the next Hitler. We might be making the next Rey, and giving the next Rey the knowledge to fix what is broken. And so everything that in that story, I think, still pertains to Ben Solo and to Rey. And so I think thematically you can make those things not divorced from one another. I don't think you have to. At the same time, would it have been cooler if the ghost of Anakin Skywalker had come out thanks to something that Rey did? Yes, that would have been badass. But at the same time, Rey's our hero, and if Rey doesn't do it, then Rey is never accepted as a new hero. And if like Luke Skywalker got up and did it, for instance, did anything for Rey, she's not the hero. The same way Luke Skywalker, if Obi-Wan had blown up the Death Star for him, or if Obi-Wan, like in the original ending of Return of the Jedi, the ghost of Obi-Wan and Yoda show up, freak Palpatine out, Anakin's able to grab Palpatine, throw him into the lava lake. It still goes on Anakin a little bit, but Luke isn't really very important in that. And Obi-Wan and Yoda still kind of do it, It's like, I just think it's really important that Rey was able to do what she did, and that Ben was able to make his choices. I still think that had to happen that way. So basically, in a way, once the movie was about a handoff in any way, it wasn't going to work for some people. And I was pretty aware of that, pretty early on, that it was going to be that. I don't ever really like that concept. It's a new generation. Oh, it's Saved by the Bell of the next class. No, I want Screech, man. I want to see Screech doing Screech stuff. I don't want the next class. And it's true. And so you have to really work your way into that stuff to make it like seamless. But I think that they did a pretty good job of taking it that way, doing that idea, and then moving on. I will say that I don't know if the handoff concept should have been 7, 8, 9. I think that is a very fair critique, because when you look at 7, 8, and 9, you're kind of right that it 1 through 6 doesn't need 7, 8, and 9. It could stop there and be completely fine. So in a way, it should have almost have been it's a new saga, and with Rey not being a Skywalker, it didn't need to be a Skywalker part of the Skywalker saga. The Skywalker saga could have been 1 through 6, and but when you get down to it, what we're actually breaking down is just marketing. When you really take it down to its deepest essence, we're just analyzing marketing. So I know they weren't going to make sense from the start with TFA, but I thought at least they would want more connection with the previous 6 movie stories, but they didn't. Yeah, and I think that's because you need everyone to be able just to see that film without having seen the other ones, and it makes sense. So you can't get too deep into the lore. you have to imply a lot, give a little bit of exposition, or it won't work. It won't work with new audiences. Like, and the thing I will say that I will give them though is that trilogy works on its own. If you just watch that trilogy, it does work on its own. But Palpatine, even in that context, is as strange as it is for us who watched all 9. You know what I mean? Or the previous 6. Because those people are just like, Palpatine's back. Who's Palpatine? And they don't really do a good job. I mean, you have him talking about Darth Sidious in episode 7, episode 8 a little bit, but they don't really do a good job of actually like telling you who that was in a very clear way. And then there's that one scene where like Palpatine's back and I don't know, it's magic, you know. I don't know how that explanation worked for anybody. I don't know how they were happy with that internally. But it wasn't about defeating evil for all time, but bringing balance to the Force with the imbalance created by the Sith. Right. Well, initially, yeah, that was an imbalance. Like the Sith did bring things out of balance. But once Kylo Ren goes towards the dark side, you know, we start to have new imbalance. But was balance ever actually achieved in that moment with Anakin? And that is like, you know, I don't think so, because Palpatine didn't really die, but his legacy does do it. You know, and was Anakin the one who was going to bring balance to the Force? I think that's what it is, and I still think he gets the credit for it because it's his legacy. Rey is essentially part of you know his legacy through Luke, in a weird way, and Kenobi and all the heroes. So I mean, yeah, I think it's what they went for. So it's like, you know, you cannot accept it or you can. But I think that what they did, I think it works the way that it like it. That's fair too. One is the Anakin just to bring on the last minute, but she had something more important to do. Yeah, I mean it's always the like when they were doing Heir to the Empire originally, I had heard that they had taken out Obi-Wan because he couldn't talk about the past because they hadn't made the prequels yet, so that was off limits. But also Luke had to do it on his own in that story, and I think that applies here too. You know, and I'm not disagreeing that it would not have been nice to have heard Luke Skywalker telling Rey about talking to his father once, or something that his father said. You're like, whoa, they had talks. Like that would have been cool. On the other hand, the story's not done. They could say the Skywalker saga is complete, but we know that's not true. We know that capitalism is going to dictate a Luke Skywalker story at one point, and that can happen then. So it's going to suck for those ones, but I would say don't take it like it's not ever going to happen. And I'm not saying it is happening. I have nothing on that. I just believe that it will happen, because why wouldn't it? There's just too much story there that it can be told. But I'm also cynical in certain ways. So Rey made no sense. Where does her power come from? Well, I don't know what you mean there. I mean, it's the Force. It comes from the Force. I mean, where does Mace Windu's power come from? It doesn't matter. She, just like Anakin intuitively uses the Force, and Rey does to an extent too. She just has power for no reason, no training, no build. She starts by defeating Kylo with no training. She doesn't need anyone. No, see that doesn't. She didn't defeat Kylo. The battle was interrupted. It didn't see its way through, you know, to the conclusion. I think got saved by that fight. But I also don't think he was anticipating that. but also it's just a movie. It's like it's not real, and so we're not like reading like a conspiracy theory about something that happened in history where we can poke holes in it. It's the same thing with Luke Skywalker. I mean, his training with Obi-Wan Kenobi was just what? Put on this helmet. Oh, what? Trust your instincts. Okay. Well, you know, Rey had maybe come to that conclusion on her own, living in the Jakku desert for her whole life. I mean, you can make stuff work for you if you want, but it makes you wonder how Luke knew the name Darth Sidious and such details of the hubris of the Jedi and their fall. How'd he find all that out? Ahsoka talking to Anakin's ghost? Yeah, exactly. And I mean, we know from the books and stuff that he's out looking for Jedi text and knowledge, and that, you know, he goes to that area. There's that Jedi temple on Coruscant that's turned into a Sith shrine and stuff above it or underneath it. I mean, there's all that kind of weird stuff. And but yeah, and there's a lot that can be explored in the Luke Skywalker series where he digs for artifacts and picks up pupils and all of that kind of stuff, you know. And it's like there's this, and then when it's all said and done, Palpatine is a really powerful being, by the way, just to go back to it really quickly. And that's a clone of his son. She's the offspring of his clone. And so with all of that, you know, if you want to get down into the bloodlines aspect of it, there's that. I'm not even crazy about the bloodline aspect. I don't think that they needed that. But I'm also not going to just second guess every single choice that they made. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, they made their choices. Here's the project. Here's the layout. What works and what didn't. And somebody using the Force is just not. I don't have any problem with it. You know, I wouldn't have had any problem if Poe had discovered he had the Force and as Finn did. I wouldn't have, you know what I mean? Like that kind of stuff. It's fine if they're taking it somewhere. But yeah, I know what you mean though, and I could definitely see how you have that perspective. Last Jedi is great, but feels like Johnson wanted to make his own trilogy with one film. Abrams had nowhere to go with 9. I already said this a few days ago, so I apologize for saying it again. But I feel like at the end of Episode 3, when Anakin's Darth Vader not in the suit, and he look at what he could have been, look at what it could have brought, and then how do you defeat that if that happened? And that was Kylo. Kylo in episode 8 kills his Palpatine, his Emperor, and becomes the Supreme Chancellor or Supreme Leader. And with that in mind, like him putting the power, how we got there, that would have been interesting. I am with you though. I do think that Ryan, he made his movie very complete. He put a bunch into that film. I don't think he didn't have it. I think he could have had a lot of places he could have went with that though. I think that there was a lot of places in it. Palpatine back and Kylo's position in that wasn't the only way of doing it. I think it was the easiest way to do it, and that's what they did, because I don't think they had enough time, because they wanted to make that December 2019 release date. I still think Rey should have been born of the Force, like Anakin, but this time naturally, as the Force's answer to Palpatine's rising and originally messing with the Force to make Anakin. That still might be the case to some degree. I mean, he had a clone that wasn't supposed to live, that escaped, and then had offspring. Clone aren't supposed to be able to have children. His could, which might mean something for Omega, by the way. You know, she might not be. She might be that kind of clone too, and she might be part of the project to make Palpatine a body. But that said, yeah, it just, anyways, yeah, it works better in a sense if she was still Rey Nobody. I like Rey Nobody was the best idea that I think a filmmaker could have given any kid watching Star Wars, because how many of you have a father and a mom who's a king and a queen and a prince or a princess? None of you. By the very logic of the story, we're all Rey Nobodies. And Rey Nobody being the one who changes the world is that's the important moral of the story. And taking that away, I think, was just sad. And the idea that, yeah, you know, a lot of us have parents who are the equivalent of two drunks in the desert, and making Rey's parents that sent such a good message, such a powerful message. And oh no, just kidding, you're a Palpatine, you're a Naboo aristocrat, and your grandpa slash real daddy slash clone derivative clone daddy is the Sith Lord of all, best Sith Lord of all time. It just kind of, you know, I don't think it was that bold of a concept. That's what I'm the most critical of, honestly. But Anakin was the chosen one, had training, and was nowhere near Dooku in Attack of the Clones. He needed years more training by Revenge of the Sith and tapped into the dark side to defeat Dooku. Yeah, but did you see Kylo Ren fighting like how they were in the prequels? He wasn't. The lightsaber fights in those movies, I don't think are very much to write home about until we get to The Last Jedi. I think that's when it's the most realized. I didn't really, the ones in episode 9 I don't think were as exhilarating as the Snoke's throne room fight. But once again, these are just movies, you know what I mean? And reality is going to be bent to make a plot and an idea work. So I mean, that is just what it is. Like if we take it to such a degree like that, we could never enjoy anything ever again. So my perspective is always, let's just lean into it. Let's see what they do. Let's go with the ride and see if it was good. Did we have fun? You know, like Solo. Does Solo need to exist? Solo, a Star Wars story? I don't know if it needs to exist. I don't know if it really made Han Solo a better character, or if it gave us any deeper insight, or made anything better by existing. But was it really fun, and did I have a good time just going with it and just saying, yeah, okay, I did, and it wasn't hard, because it was fun enough that I was like, okay, so you exist to be fun, fine, that's cool. Whereas I see like other franchises, something I love, like some random Batman movie or something, I'm just like, this didn't need to exist. This does everything I've seen but worse, and it's not fun. And so that's just where I fall with it, though. The Jedi couldn't train that out of him. The fear of loss is not something you can just train out of one. That's why Qui-Gon's death was so important to the story as a whole. Yeah, so the idea, there's a sociologist whose name I cannot recall at the moment, but basically George Lucas had some interaction about ideas about childhood, and how would Anakin take to losing his mother, what would make Darth Vader. And originally he was going to have Anakin be older, and then when he did his research, he realized, oh, if you lose your mom, you know, before 12 and around 9 or 10, you're gonna have real problems with attachment and letting go. And so that's why Anakin was young. Most people didn't like that, and Lucas didn't care. He cared about telling that part of the story right. I think there was a certain part of George Lucas that was a bit self-righteous, rightfully so. I think he understood what his platform was and what he could do and what he could say. And in it, he said, hey, I'm going to show you guys how republics lose themselves. And boy, was he right, because we've seen a lot of the things that he's laid out come really close to happening in our lifetime already. And, you know, how slippery a slope losing democracy is. And he laid that out, and he laid about attachment being leading to our personality type, leading to tons of problems that we have. And he's not wrong. I mean, attachment is a huge issue, and being able to let go. And most people can't. I mean, don't want to start an online fight or anything like that, but let's just say guys who didn't like a certain movie, who are still like trying to pick fights on the internet about it and making YouTube videos over it all these years later, they got some attachment issues. They have a lot to learn from the prequel series about why it's important to let go and to, act out of love instead. At least I think so. And I'm not picking on you, Ari's Rock. I'm talking just about you know the type that I'm talking about. The sequel trilogy lightsaber duels being poor was more a production and training issue. Yeah, well, it was once they decided not to hire Nick Gillard. Is it Gillard or Gillard? But whichever. That was just, in my opinion, a stupid choice. I mean, just really stupid. It's like what it was just. He could have toned it down, and then gradually increased it, and by episode 9 we could have been back to the prequel stuff, and that would have been cool. And I will agree with you though, like on the sense that it like Kylo trained with Luke Skywalker, right? He should have been a much better lightsaber fighter, and he killed everybody in that temple, so he's clearly not bad at it. And but you could also put in some stuff in there. There was some stuff that was like supposed to make more sense when he's like, it's you, and stuff that made it into audiobooks that wasn't supposed to, and they were clearly going to go somewhere else with it. But editing, because it's an epic family saga space opera, Lucas's sequel trilogy was the grandfather, the children, and the grandchildren. Yeah, but George Lucas, while he did have a biological child recently, raised three kids that were not his biological children. And the Lucasfilm kind of perspective, or the George Lucas perspective, I don't think was necessarily rooted in biology in that way. I don't think he would have felt that it had to be biological. But he was going to take it that way just because it's easier, it's more simple, it's more expected. I also don't think that, from what we've heard from the George Lucas concepts, I don't think it was as fleshed out. I don't think he had as much there as you would think. But Real Ben Maynard says, but also, my friend, people who like these movies shouldn't say those aren't fans are wrong either. I feel on the internet you can have opinions one way or the other. Yeah, totally, you can. It's important to be like, okay, like if I say, Ben, did you like it? Then you could say, nah, I didn't really like it. It didn't really work for me, and I thought this was bad, this was fake, this didn't work for me, I didn't like it. Okay, cool. But then like if like 2 days later I'm like having a good time, Star Wars, space fights, love this, and then Ben comes up and he's like, dude, that movie sucks, you're dumb, accept it, come to my conclusion, then you're just like, what's wrong with you, Ben Maynard? Now Ben's not that way, but that's exactly like I think where he's going with it. It's like you can get burned by Star Wars and still focus on what you like. Like I do it like all the time. Like even when it comes to the books and comics, I mean, most of them aren't that good. Most of them don't really work that well, or it's someone else's idea of Star Wars and it just doesn't really fit my kind of my taste or whatever. And so I just kind of move on, I don't talk about issue 74 and why it sucks constantly. Just let it go, and then focus on what you do like, because there's so many movies. I mean, heck, like I'm this week I'm down on 9 a lot, right? 9's my punching bag. So, but I still have all those other ones I can focus on, and it's fine. But a lot of those other guys are on about a culture war. They're wanting to talk about something else. They're wanting to use this as a gateway to discuss something else that they want to with people who aren't discussing those things. So it's a little bit of indoctrination there, I think. One of the stories of Star Wars is that the Jedi were right all along. The Jedi way was right one, but it was hard to do. Even the Jedi themselves can fail achieving it. I don't know if I agree with that, because I don't know if we've ever seen that the Jedi can love like Anakin loved Padme, if you know what I mean. I don't know if that's the case. I think that if the Jedi are kind of wrong to deny a human his humanity, and that aspect of love that saves everybody in Return of the Jedi and in Episode 9 has nothing to do with Jedi doctrine. It has not necessarily, anyway. It has nothing to do with being a Jedi. It has to do with being a human and a good person, and putting others above yourself. The Jedi are supposed to do that, but also not have these attachments that actually get out of the way of doing that for Anakin. So I'm not sure, man. I don't know if I agree with that or not. It's a good philosophical question. Like, how many holes in a straw? I got criticized for saying The Last Jedi was 8 out of 10 and not a 10 out of 10. Nothing is a 10 out of 10. There has never been a Star Wars movie that is a 10 out of 10. A 10 out of 10 should not exist. You are not being in any way objective or critical, I should say, if you give something a 10 out of 10. That's just me. You could really be wowed by something, but my opinion is a 10 out of 10 should not be ever possible. It means it is perfect, and it could not have been better in any way. And there has never been a person or a thing that could not have been, that is perfect and that could not have been better or improved. So yeah, you gotta let that stuff go. That's just like rabid fan cheerleading in a sick way, probably. Lopez says, yeah, exactly. A lot of these things aren't really good in the movies I really love, but I love them anyways. Yeah, I mean, Star Wars is like kind of B-grade pulp. You have to bend logic a lot of times to make things work in it. I find it really fascinating when fans, even myself, all of a sudden start to be like, logic matters here. Like I've been laughed at a long time, and rightfully so, but Saw Gerrera's eyes and the explanations for it, it's just like, he's a cartoon character and this is an actor. Like, make one thing conform. Make one thing make sense here. Mike Pappas says Spaceballs is a 10 out of 10. You're right. I take it back. Oh, you know what? Actually, right in here in this thing, I have a Perfect 10 magazine as well. So, yes, you're right. Anyways, Kira was the scavenger character. Then the granddaughter was another character. Yeah, I'm not so sure about it about how if that stuff was in any way accurate. I know that there was to be a little boy, a younger boy, and there was an actor who was supposedly even talked to for that. That's one of the things that I believe to be accurate and true. But yeah, Spaceballs is great. What's kind of funny is I showed Spaceballs to my kids. They love it. They want to watch it all the time because to them it's like another Star Wars movie. Like they get that it's funny, but they don't get that like it's a spoof necessarily. And then they watched Robin Hood Men in Tights because they were like in my Mel Brooks section, of movies. And they love it, but they won't watch Robin Hood Prince of Thieves. And I'm like, guys, this is like watching Spaceballs without watching Star Wars. And they're just like, we don't care. They want to watch Men in Tights. All right. So they don't deny love. Attachment for possession is wrong. You can love, but you must always let go selfishly, not keep it selfishly. Yeah, but they also don't want, for that reason, you can't have parents and natural things. Anakin being with this, that's why they take children from their parents when they're young and separate them, so that way they lose that sense. But in losing that sense, I guess the question is are you losing your humanity? And I mean, I'm totally on board with the idea like being possessive is bad. At the same time, like when you're with somebody, if they're not possessive of you at all, does that bother you? Should it? I don't know. I've never met somebody who I would say was the epitome of a Jedi in that way, romantically, who had no sense of possession. You know what I mean? It's like, and maybe that's really mature love I've never had or something. I don't know, but it's. I think that the Jedi are right fundamentally, but at least the Jedi in the prequel era, they're not. They are wrong, and Anakin's perspective was in the end what did save everybody. I mean, like he I don't know if he's possessive of Luke, but he definitely has love and attachment immediately about him. He's obsessed with him. But it's still what saves it. It's still that love, all of Palpatine's crap, and allows them to win, you know? So Shane says, hey, Jason, what upcoming Star Wars Disney Plus series are you most hyped for? That Acolyte sounds interesting in my opinion. Yeah, me too. I think Kenobi's definitely a home run. I think for sure. I think Mandalorian's a priority because it's successful. So I think it's going to get love. I think Acolyte maybe is our first chance at something really like where we don't know anything and we're kind of brought into something new. Also, we have the opportunity for Yoda to be in there as well, which is rad. So, yeah. So I would say probably that. I mean, like I want to see Visions, but it doesn't really make it like up high. And that droids show, the whatever that one's called, it's like who knows what that's gonna be. Might be rad. I really like that those weird videos they put up of just like here's Star Wars environments. That was rad. I wish that was in VR. If they had done that in VR, but I hope they do more of those though. Those like, and it would be cool if they kind of did like a little bit more anthropologically, you know, like it would be cool to have encyclopedia where like, oh, you know, here's a Jawa camp and we see the footage and then we have a narrator who kind of gives us some of that crap we read in those books. Like that'd be a good time, you know, especially for those college kids that are still smoking the grass cigarettes. But you need to check out Another Life on Netflix with Katie Sackhoff, a fun sci-fi show. Okay. Nope and nope. Boy, there's no one interested in this channel anymore. 20 people? Why bother? It's a positive discussion, Greg. That's why. Hey, Greg. You know, hey, do your thing, man. And I'm 2 hours into this, so it's cool. But yeah, I mean, he says they don't take them. The parents give them up. Okay. I mean, you're kind of splitting hairs here. They are removed from families and they never see them again. So Ben Maynard says, we need to pitch my idea. Hey, David Attenborough, who does the planet Earth? Yeah, get David Attenborough in there and have Ewoks, you know, eating stormtroopers and how the ceremony goes and stuff like that. Like, I think that would be a show in one hand that would be easy to do and it would be fun, you know? They already have all that stuff made, you know what I mean? But yeah, but I mean, anyways, I think that we are hitting the 2 hour mark here, so I think I'm gonna take off and go and pick up the kiddos and have a good day. And I want to thank everybody for coming and Aries Rock for the challenging questions today. It's fun. I have to say I don't necessarily agree with you, but it's always fun to talk to other fans and hear what works for you and what doesn't. And it was fun having our discussion today. So we've done a lot today. This week we've done a lot. Will I make it the whole week streaming? We'll see. I don't know. I didn't even plan on doing the first one, but I keep hitting it up. So, but yeah, if you guys enjoy these, I'll keep doing them, and we'll keep having these hangouts. And if you guys have any discussions on what we can do or what we should be hitting up in these talks, send me a DM or an email or whatever, and we'll do it. And it'll be fun to maybe have some of you guys come on the channel, hang out with me, so we could have a discussion like one-on-one. Somebody from chat, maybe some Mike Papas, maybe some Dale. I don't know, whoever wants to. But hit me up and we'll do it. And I have had a couple people reach out who say they want to do it. So we'll do this. We'll grow this and make this more fun. And I'll try to have maybe more of a format. Maybe I'll put in an intro. Maybe I'll even say who I am when I start, like I did today. I don't know. Nobody can make me do anything. I just do what I want. But yeah, And Ben, whenever you want to come on, dude, open invite. So yeah, it's good times with all of you guys. And watch some Star Wars this week. Notice something. Tell me what you noticed. That's your homework, because you're all my co-host. Have a good night, guys, or a good day, whatever, whenever you're watching this. Bye.